into the thought process of putting you on Caitlin Clark in the first round of the playoffs?
I don't know if it was a thought process, but they've been playing extremely well, especially with two dynamic guards. DeWanna's been our best defender, and Kelsey been killing it since, All-Star break. So we made the change to move her there, and then it was like next person up was me. I don't know if it was necessary, I want this challenge because she's such a great player. She's not your typical rookie, but in order to, win the championship, you got to guard the best player. So I'm up for the challenge.
Caitlin Clark's season ended with a tough loss against the Connecticut Sun, but her impact on the WNBA is undeniable. She blew the league wide open, turning almost empty arenas into sold-out stadiums and skyrocketing jersey sales. Clark didn't just play the game, she transformed it, paving the way for future WNBA players with her electrifying performances and massive fan following. This season will be remembered as the turning point, where Clark's influence reshaped the future of the league.
Caitlin finally getting a moment to breathe, right? As she just mentioned, didn't even get to reflect it all on her college career and just jumped right into things and had an epic season. How would you describe, Janae, her historic career? A year this far.
Yeah, Caitlin Clark came into the WNBA as the most impactful women's basketball player we've seen in a generation. And it took a combination of things, both on and off the court. Off the court, attendance, viewership. On the court, breaking the single season scoring record or the all-time scoring record in college. But now you see her in the WNBA, and you can say the exact same thing. Most impactful that we've seen in women's basketball for those same two reasons. Arenas were upgraded, viewership through the roofs. But then when it comes to the basketball, what she was able to do was truly impressive. She averaged 19 and 8. For some context, I won Rookie of the Year. I think I averaged 12. It is a huge feat to get those types of numbers. After Olympic break, you mentioned it, Molly. It's like finally she can wait, waiting to exhale.
Totally.
23, 9, and 8 were her averages, bringing the Fever to the playoffs. I know that there was a big three with Aaliyah Boston and Kelsey Mitchell as well. But what she has been able to do has transcended not just women's basketball, but it's women's sports in this moment. The only other athletes that I can see.
First of all, let's put this in its proper perspective. When I think about Caitlin Clark, the operative word that comes to my mind is gratitude. There's an incredible level of gratitude that should be accorded to this young lady with what she did for the sport. That's not to take anything away from anybody else, but I often argue, when I've argued with folks about this, you think NBA players shouldn't be thankful to Magic Johnson? You think NBA players shouldn't be thankful to Larry Bird? You think NBA players shouldn't be thankful to Michael Jordan? Because guess what? There were great players that were in the sport before they ever arrived, who did everything they could to make the NBA what it was. But it was when those brothers arrived that it took on an extra dimension and elevated to another level. I'm just looking at some of the numbers here. When we talk about league attendance, the Indiana Fever, all right, with Caitlin Clark, led the league in attendance both home and on the road. Fever averaged 17,035 at home, 15,000 on the road. Attendance for the entire league up nearly 50% this year, according to data from across the timeline. And Indiana leads all teams with an average attendance of, like I said, fourth in the league in MVP voting. And we see all of these things. Certainly she's going to be a great player for the league in terms of attention, what this person did. And when you take that into consideration and you think about what the WNBA is on course to continue to do, how women's basketball, the attention, the allure, how all of a sudden that's in the mind's eye of everybody else, you clearly have this person, Caitlin Clark, to thank for it.
Here's what shows you what an epic season this was for the WNBA as a whole. First Take did not start the show with the Dallas Cowboys, who have a game tonight, but the WNBA, rightfully so, as we should. But Stephen A., what did you think of Chiney's comp? I found interesting. Serena Williams.
In terms of comparing Serena Williams?
Moving the needle. Obviously, she doesn't have, all the wins and all those accolades, but in just bringing in new viewers, etc.
Well, that definitely comes to mind because I think that Serena Williams is the GOAT. I mean, that's how I view her. I mean, I think that when you talk, she's arguably on Mount Rushmore.
Yes, and Caitlin has yet to win, has not had those accomplishments. So you can't compare it that way.
But I guess what I'm saying is, with Serena Williams, you were watching her.
Correct.
With Simone Biles, you were watching her. Caitlin Clark got you watching the league. Because it wasn't just her. You wanted to see who eventually she was going to end up going against. You saw other folks trying to get at her and trying to get at her team, and you saw fans and all of this other stuff going on, which we will get into, right? She has you transfixed on the entire league. That's why I brought up Michael Jordan and Larry Bird and Magic Johnson. That's why I brought them up. See, when I think about Serena and Simone Biles and people like that, you watch them.
Sport, yeah.
You watch them. But when you with Caitlin Clark, you find yourself watching the league as well.
So when you think about gratitude, we are grateful for the Caitlin Clarks. We are grateful for the Angel Reeses, the Cameron Brinks. Last year was the year of the super teams. New York Liberty, back-to-back champion Las Vegas Aces. This is the year of the super rooks. And we have an out-of-this-world rookie in Caitlin Clark in which the rising tide lifts all boats. So gratitude is there for this class, but I do think the prevalent word is respect. You mentioned that as well. This was a huge opportunity for people to not only, through Caitlin Clark's lens, respect the game, appreciate the game, and finally, with her season being done, I think people have now seen that all of the trials and tribulations, all of the debates that we've had at this desk right here, at the end of the day, she stuck through with it. She went through it. You know what I mean? And I always say you have to go through it to get to it. This is basketball. We saw her play her best basketball yesterday, trying to get her team to win. We're grateful that she has done so much to grow the game, and hopefully people can now respect it instead of trying to criticize it every step of the way.
Well, first of all, we're on First Take here, and I'm sitting across from you. So we're going to go to a very uncomfortable place, and I don't give a damn how people feel about it. I ain't scared to do it. Let me be very, very clear. There was a heightened level of sensitivity because of what you just articulated. What you articulated is a feeling. It's an emotion. It has substance. There definitely are people out there who felt exactly the way that you did, that you expressed rather. But there are an abundance of people that weren't looking at it that way at all. There are an abundance of people that have religiously respected the great talent that exists within the WNBA and the women who have done it. What has happened is that in America, you have somebody that's come along who, by the way, I'm going to go there, who happens to be white and brought a level of attention and allure to the sport it had not received before. And what we were seeing from an abundance of folks appeared to be resentment. Now, what y'all, I'm going to say this, what some of y'all missed is somebody like me saying that resentment was justified. Because as is historically the case, a lot of times there are black folks that do a lot of great, great things. And the level of recognition that should come our way doesn't come our way. For example, let's bring up Magic Johnson and Larry Bird. As great as Magic Johnson was, Magic Johnson won a championship as a rookie. That brother played center. You know, in Game 6 when Kareem Abdul-Jabbar couldn't go. And what did Michael Cooper say on the plane when they ultimately revealed it? He said, Magic Johnson said to the team, have no fear, the Magic Man is here, okay? And then went out and dropped 42 and 15 and won a championship, okay? But he still would not have been able to propel the league to new heights without the assistance of Larry Bird. And so you had an abundance of black players back in the day that were like, well, damn, as great as Larry Bird ended up proving to be, there was still some resentment towards him because you felt like, yo, did it take that in order for Magic was doing it on his own? Magic's already a champion. Why it takes all of this in order to get the attention that we deserve? I feel there were people in the WNBA that felt that way. I just didn't think it was wrong.
No, Stephen.
I just did. I said something.
No. This is the issue that we had, right? There are preconceived notions on how the WNBA is that people had to be educated to as it is right now.
What do you mean how the WNBA is? Explain.
People perceive the WNBA to be a joke, but now we're seeing it's now a juggernaut in the sense that, hey, women should compete like this. On this very stage right here, we talked about how, hey, you said protect the golden goose. You said these words right here on First Take.
Did.
But that's not how athletes inherently are, right? We try to characterize 1 or 2 or 3 foul plays on all players, and that to me is out of pocket. That is out of line.
I agree with that.
So those preconceived notions on how women should compete are the issues, and that's why we today, Caitlin Clark, the reason why she's successful is because she embraced the WNBA. She chose to come in. She had an option to go back to Iowa, and instead decided to, hey, I'm going to go through this league because I want to be the best of the best. And she proved that she had one of the best rookie season. It is one of the most impactful players we've seen. But you have to go through it to get to it. And so when we talk about these comparisons, yes, history is repeating itself. Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, that was around 30 years in the NBA. That took them off of tape delay. Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, the differences that made them so captivating in March Madness, whether it is their achievement coming from LSU, coming from Iowa, it also revealed the underbellies, the crevices of our society, but still made it
That's my
interesting.
point.
But nonetheless, the competition remained the same. These women were fierce.
Let her finish.
These women were fierce. They competed at the highest levels. They delivered when it mattered the most, and they pushed through. And that should always be respected, and that should be the narrative.
Yes, if
People
you're
had the
talking about the competition, but see, that's the point. In fairness to you, let me make your point even more crystallize even more point. You know who would agree with you wholeheartedly?
Who?
Michael Jordan and Magic Johnson.
So I'm in good company. I'm cool with that.
You're in phenomenal company. So
I'm cool with that.
All right, and I've argued and debated with both about it, right? Because here was the debate. There is no debate about what you're saying as it pertained to the game. The argument that we were engaging in was that's right, was extent.
She didn't need protecting. She did just fine.
Time out. I wasn't talking about don't touch on a basketball court or anything like that. I was saying appreciate the rising tide lifting all boats. Embrace the attention. Don't resent it.
If you watched yesterday's game, DeWanna Bonner and Caitlin Clark got into it. But guess what? Caitlin had kind of the last laugh in the sense that she still balled out and DeWanna got the win. So it was a win-win scenario. But if we say that the game is what that interaction is, that is false. The game is that it was an amazing game down to the wire where the Indiana Fever had a chance to win. But Connecticut Sun advances to conference semis like they've done so many years in the WNBA. So like that is the narrative that we need to respect and appreciate. People are grateful for Caitlin. Caitlin has been able to hold her own. And guess what? The game is better for all of that.
Well,
it's not just gratitude,
and to me,
it's also respect.
And I would respectfully say to you, that's one of the biggest problems that hurts an abundance of industries when we're focused on literally the actual substance, but we want to ignore the allure that exists outside of it. That's what draws an audience. If people decide what they want, I didn't say they were right.
No,
I said they decide what they want. So in other words, if you had people out there that, hold on, I'll let you talk. Now you got people out there that was gravitating to Larry Bird. We knew what that was about in the 80s. We didn't like it, but you had roads to climb. You had people alluding to that was what the case was with Caitlin Clark. And I'm saying to you, yeah, it ain't necessarily right because there are players who preceded her that did phenomenal things in the WNBA. They did phenomenal things for women's basketball that should have been appreciated, but nevertheless were not. Why is that? Because the society that we live in, they decide what they want to do. We can point out how wrong it is. We can point out that that's a reality that shouldn't be a reality. But what we can't do is say, this is what matters.
Right.
That doesn't. When the audience was telling you, no, something else matters.
Let me just hold on.
She brought excitement and anticipation back to women's basketball in a way no one else had before. Her presence turned the WNBA into a must-watch event, and the ripple effect of her influence could be felt everywhere. Young players now see a future in the league that's brighter than ever.
Here's the excuse I'm going to give them, and this is the bow I'm going to put on this whole conversation. And this is a sympathetic take towards everybody on the Indiana Fever. We just watched one of the most unique experiences in the history of sports. And I'm talking about the Caitlin Clark experience. And it's gone on nonstop. The Caitlin Clark experience has been nonstop since last October, early November. For a year straight, if we dial the clock back a year, let's start October 1, 2023. She was the biggest star in college sports. She took that mantle in March and April of 2023 with her first tournament run. In 23, it's like, holy cow, she's the biggest star in all of college sports. She's bigger than any college football player. She's certainly bigger than any college basketball player. So she gets that mantle in March and April of 2023. When practice starts back up in October and games start back up in early November or late October, she's now the biggest star in college sports and she's playing at Iowa. And then the clock rolls into the NCAA tournament. And by the NCAA tournament, I started off like, this girl's the biggest star in sports. By February, March of 2024, it's like, holy cow, she's the biggest star in all of sports. And she's a woman. This is very unique. No woman's ever been asked to carry this burden. No, it's never happened in America. And then when you throw on the animus and the jealousy and the media being against her and all the legends of the game. What was the girl, Lynette Woodward? She ain't break my record. I was playing with a real size basketball. She wasn't. All of that. And it's like, oh, wow. And then obviously you have Angel Reese still trolling her and the people in the media being uncomfortable, and Paige Beckers is really the best player, and Paige Beckers, she understands her white privilege. Caitlin Clark doesn't. And so here's a woman that becomes the biggest star in sports earlier this year, February, around that time, and goes all the way through the NCAA tournament, ends in early April. The next week, or within a week or 10 days, they have the WNBA draft, and ratings fly through the roof. These women all dress up appropriately, mostly as women. The WNBA draft is this huge success, and it's like anybody that's paying attention, like, this is the biggest star in sports. And then a week or two later, she's into a WNBA camp. And then by early May, she's playing WNBA games. And the momentum just keeps going and going. And then she gets snubbed for the Olympics. And then, all the hatred from Cheryl Swopes and everybody in the WNBA, it just all keeps building and feeding on itself. She's having this incredible deal, and people are sitting out here asking her questions. I forget the guy that asked her the really stupid question, and she just said, hey, look, her answer wasn't these exact words, but it's just like, hey, I just want a ball. I don't want, and then WNBA players got upset. We don't have the privilege of just playing basketball. We have to care about these social issues. She's playing in a social issues league that wants to wear shirts that say vote, wants to scream Black Lives Matter, wants to push some sort of political agenda. She just wants the ball. She just wants to be the best basketball player. And she's caught up in this political deal, and she's caught up in this racial discussion, and she's dealing with Nike, an organization that got her on a bargain basement deal and is telling her, well, we're gonna wait to promote you until we're done promoting Asia Wilson. And she's in the middle of all of these racial discussions that she has nothing to do with, wants nothing to do with, and then they're demonizing her fans. And these Indiana Fever players are all caught up in the middle of this too. They're all having conversations they used to not have because no one cared about the WNBA. And so these guys could go play their game in anonymity with very little pressure. No one really cared. And now they're in this bubble. Every arena they go to is filled to the rim. There's all this conversation. It's all exhausting. And they got a little small 3-4 week break because of the Olympics, but it still wasn't much of a break because a lot of the discussion was about how come she ain't on the Olympic team?